embark on the Great Canadian Farm Tour, it is important to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes and honors the enduring presence of the diverse Indigenous communities across Canada, including the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We acknowledge the deep connection that Indigenous peoples have to the land, waters, resources, and all of agriculture. We express our gratitude for their stewardship and custodianship of these lands for generations. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes that acknowledging the traditional territories we reside and work on is only a small step towards reconciliation. We ask that we all continue to learn more about the Indigenous peoples in these regions, to consider the history and ongoing colonialism on this land, to reflect on how each of us can contribute to reconciliation.
Hello, bonjour. Welcome everyone to our next stop on season 4 of the Great Canadian Farm Tour. We are so excited to have everyone join us today from across Canada. My name is Kayla Wibbs from Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and I will be your MC for today. Before we get started, we just want to provide a few reminders. For those who want to follow along in French, please use the Boost Lingo link provided in the chat or event description to access the interpreting services provided for today. We ask that everyone is mindful. This is an educational event, so inappropriate conduct happening in the chat, such as spamming and improper comments, will not be tolerated. Throughout the tour, we welcome you to post your questions in the chat to get them answered. We will answer as many questions as possible. The mystery word for your student activity books will appear at the end of this episode, so please stick around to see it. Students, important answers to your student activity books, such as the provincial tree and the meaning of the provincial coat of arms, will be shared during the brain break. Finally, we would love to know where everyone is joining us from. Please comment in the chat your school and location. Now we would like to welcome today's host of the Great Canadian Farm Tour, Lyle, who is a turkey farmer in Alberta. Hi, Lyle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Winter's Turkeys. Glad you could join us today. Like Caitlin said, thanks for the introduction. My name's Lyle, and here at Winter's Turkeys, we raise free-range and organic turkeys, mainly for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So those festive meals that you get together with friends and family for. And we do that just outside of Calgary, Alberta, in a little town called Delmead, which I like to tell people has a post office and a church and a turkey farm, and that's about all. So I want to give it a shout out to Indus School, where my kids go to school. I'm not sure if they're with us today, but wanted to say hello to them. And before we get going, I just kind of want to give an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So before the break, we're going to talk about turkeys and their life cycle and how they arrive to our farm and what we do here. Then you'll have a quick break, and then after the break, we'll talk about some of those terms you heard at the beginning, organic and free range. What's that mean? How is it different? And then also we'll talk about the things turkeys eat and kind of their daily routine. So Winter's Turkeys, we've been doing this is since 1958, so we've been raising turkeys for a long time. We're still learning and glad to be on this journey. I'm just gonna pick up, we're gonna walk for a second to get over to the turkeys because I want to do this intro kind of quietly, but in the meantime,
On your walk, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, Lyle, how you became a turkey farmer?
Oh, well, as I said, we started in 1958, so it's kind of always been here. And that's how we got involved. The history of it is that my great-grandfather, my wife's great-grandfather, he started raising turkeys for his own family while he already had chickens, and so he started raising a few turkeys, and it seemed to go well, and people liked them, and so he just kind of kept doing it. And then over the years, it grew and grew, and to now that turkeys, we don't have any chickens or cows or anything like that. What we raise is turkeys. And I'm going to get my camera turned around here. And you can meet the turkeys. So these are our turkeys here. You can see there's a few more in the top left. And then I'll try and kind of slowly pan over, you can see another barn of turkeys. So right away, you're probably noticing a difference between the two types that you've seen here. The turkeys you're looking at right now These are hybrid turkeys, and that's the breed of turkey that they are. You can see they have nice bright white feathers. I'm going to come down and get you a little closer. And you can see some tall ones and some short ones. And those taller ones are the boys. The boys are called toms. And the shorter ones are hens. And we just call them hens. I guess we don't have another name for them. But so these turkeys in this barn are around 100 days old, and they'll be ready for Christmas. And it might, we just hit November, but Christmas is coming quickly. So this is their barns, and you can see all the turkeys. And then I'll swing back around. These turkeys, the black ones, these are a heritage breed of turkey, and they're called Orlop. So they're an Orlop bronze turkey. And I see Nicole has a question, how many turkeys do we have on our farm? And right now, we have about 15,000 turkeys on our farm. In total, we raise about 32,000 a year. So just over half at Thanksgiving, and then the rest here at Christmas. And these dark turkeys, and I'm going to get down a little lower again so you get a good view. These darker turkeys, this is what Grandpa Jack, when he started, all of the turkeys looked like this. They were all dark. It's not a sunny day, so you can't really tell today, but they kind of have iridescent feathers. Oh, someone's pecking at the camera. I'm gonna have to back up a little. There, that one. Wanted to say hello. And then over time, the white turkeys were bred. They selected for turkeys with more and more white in the breeding, so that they were a little easier to clean, and people liked white turkeys more than they did black ones. So that was kind of the difference.
We have another question here. I don't know, did you answer this one? If the white and black turkeys are different? Also, I've seen some questions in the chat about how many different breeds of turkeys there are.
Oh man, there are lots of breeds of turkeys. Just the same that there are lots of types of dogs or cows or cats. There are many different types of turkey. The two main breeds are Nicholas and hybrid. That's the majority of turkeys that you would find on farms across North America, and they look very similar. I can't tell the difference between a Nicholas and a hybrid. Then when you get into kind of the heritage breeds, there are many, many breeds, and there's blue turkeys, and there's white turkeys with red specks, and brown turkeys with white specks, and all different kinds of the rainbow. So the biggest difference between these hybrid birds and the Orlop is the speed at which they grow. The Orlops grow much slower, and they don't get as big. So they're a smaller turkey. And because they don't get as big, they can fly better. These white turkeys, the hybrids, they don't really fly. And in a couple days or a week or so, we're going to have to start building these fences up higher so that the turkeys don't try and escape and get out. And because once they get out, they have a hard time getting back in. And it's more work for everyone.
Perfect. Let's just do a couple Q&As from our classes across Canada before we get into our brain break here. So we have one right now from the Kuman brothers. Do the white and black turkeys taste different?
I don't notice a taste difference. Some people tell us that they can taste a difference, but I haven't noticed it myself.
Okay, and let's do a couple more questions. We'll get another question here up on the screen. This is from Vieira, asks, do you have to worry about predators while raising your turkeys?
Yeah, we do, Vera. That's a great question. So we'll get into this more after the break, but free range, which is how we raise our turkeys, means they can go outside whenever they feel like it. And that obviously, allows, if they can go outside, sometimes other animals can get inside. So we have some very large puppies around here, some Irish wolfhounds, and they work to keep the turkeys safe. And we have fences to keep the turkeys go out of the building and outside, and we have fences to keep other predators from getting in and keep them safe. But yeah, we do have to worry about that.
Okay, and let's just do another question, maybe two more. I'm going to do one that I saw in the chat that I think is really interesting because I would also like to know. Lucas asks, what is the red things on the turkeys' heads?
Okay, that's a great question, Lucas. I'm going to get down here, and you see this tall turkey right in front of me here. He's got that red thing over his nose. That is called a snood. And then you'll also notice he's got that big flap of skin under his chin. And those are called carnicles. And the snood and the carnicles, a hen has them as well, but they're much smaller and less pronounced. And that is one of the differences between boy and girl turkeys, toms and hens, is that toms grow bigger and they have bigger legs and bigger wings and bigger heads, but they also grow a very pronounced snood and they have the big carnicles. And then if I zoom over this turkey right here, he is strutting. So his head is kind of turning blue, and those carnicles are a bright red, and he's fanning his feathers out, and he's looking very big and tough and important.
Perfect. And let's do one last question before we get into our brain break from a student across Canada. Tammy wants to know, what are the turkeys' temperament? Have you ever been attacked by one?
So turkeys are very much a herd animal. They stick together and they are very interested in people. They really want to know what you're doing. So when you walk in the barn, they all turn and come towards you and they want to know what's going on. I've never been attacked by one, but they peck at you a lot because turkeys don't have hands. So if they want to know what something is, they peck at it. And when I walk in the barn and maybe I've got my shoelaces untied or I've got a button on the side of my coveralls that's kind of shiny, they'll peck at it because they're very interested by what it is. But that doesn't really hurt. If you're small, like I have a daughter who's 3, and she has to come in the barn with us, just because if they ever knocked her over, they would peck at her to want to know, what is that? But once you're bigger, they don't really attack or do anything. They're just pecking to say, what's that?
And we did get a little sample of that curiosity when he was pecking at the camera on the other side there of the black turkey. So we did get to see that. Now we're going to jump into our brain break, about a minute and a half. Get your student activity books ready, kids. And then when we come back, we'll look at some more and learn more about turkeys with Lyle. And we're back with Lyle, who's giving us a new view of the farm. I think he's just in motion. We'll give him a couple seconds. Here we go. Okay, what are we looking at now, Lyle?
Hi, everybody. So now what you're looking at is the exterior. So this is the barn that you were just looking in. And so here you can see the yard. This is where the turkeys can go outside. And way in the back there, you can kind of see there's a hay bale that they're climbing on. There's a few lumps around. We try and give them things to keep them entertained. And this is what free range is they can go outside. We talked about a fence to protect them. So that fence keeps predators away. And so this is free range. It means they can go outside whenever they feel like it. So we were standing up in the corner there, and here we are looking around, and I'll swing over, and you can see there's not too many of our orlop birds, the bronze ones outside today, but there are a few. So I'm gonna try and carefully walk back up to where we were. We talked about
an interesting question that I saw in the chat, if you don't mind me asking.
Absolutely.
Lulu is wondering if you ever breed the white ones with the black ones.
We do not. So that's a great question. Our turkeys, we don't breed them here on our farm. They come to us as 1-day-old poults, and they're tiny, tiny little turkeys. They're about 50 grams, 56 grams. So they come to us already hatched. We don't do any breeding here on farm. And when they come to us, they're not in these barns. These barns are not temperature controlled. And when the babies arrive, they need about 35 degrees Celsius. So hot weather. So they are in our brooder barn, which is at the far end of the yard. Can't really see it from this camera, but they come and they spend the first 4 weeks always inside, and the temperature slowly gets cooler as they grow feathers. Feathers are like their version of fur, and so that's what insulates them. And then once they're about 5 weeks old, then we can start letting them outside. So yeah, we don't do any breeding here on our farm. All our turkey poults come from Gunton, Manitoba. So if anyone's near there, that's where they all come from. And they drive out in a truck, and it's amazing. We'll get 15,000 turkeys at a time, and they all arrive and are less than 1 day old. So they're less than 24 hours old when they come. Okay, we're gonna talk about feed. So our organic turkeys, these Orlop bronze turkeys that we raise, organic is a term that refers to the feed that they eat. And so the feed they eat is all certified organic. And one thing we do on our farm is we feed whole wheat. So I'm gonna get this up nice and close. And what you can see here is wheat kernels. And those are whole wheat kernels. And then there's these little kind of round pellets. And those pellets are supplements that contain the nutrients, the minerals. It's like taking your vitamins. That's what those pellets are for. So the majority of their feed is whole wheat. And then they have little bits of pellets in there. And that's their feed. And you can, if I stand up, you can see these tubes coming down from the ceiling, and this white pipe, and they go into metal feeders, and that's where they're getting their food from. And then I'm gonna try and encourage a turkey to come nice and close to us. I see your question, Ivana. Do turkeys ever lay eggs? They don't on our farm, because a turkey, for it to lay eggs, it has to be over a year old. And on our turkeys arrive in May, and then those are the Thanksgiving turkeys, the ones we enjoy at Thanksgiving meals. And our Christmas turkeys, they arrive in August, and then so they don't spend enough time on our farm. But yes, turkeys do lay eggs just like all birds. And but they just don't on our farm. I'm trying to encourage a turkey to come and show us its mouth, but nobody seems too interested. Maybe this girl over here? No, she's pulling back. But what I would show you is that turkeys, like all birds, don't have teeth. So when we feed them this whole wheat, they have no way of chewing it and breaking it down and getting the nutrients out in their mouth. So we also feed them this. This is grit or rocks. They're just crushed up rocks, and the turkeys eat these rocks, and then they go into a mussel that's kind of shaped like a fist. And at the top end, right there, the feed drops in. And then the mussel works it around, and those rocks grind up the feed, and then out the bottom comes chewed grain. So that's how a turkey chews its food, is it eats grain that looks like this, and then it passes through the gizzard and gets all ground up by these rocks, and then it goes into their stomach and into their digestive tract, and they can access the nutrients inside of it. And on our farm, so I'm just going to show you here in the organic barn, you can see right here there are 2 grit feeders, and that's the there's a few turkeys eating there. And on our farm, our turkeys will eat about 3 truckloads of grit a year to chew up all their food. And the bigger birds, the hybrid birds, they're at the point where every day we go in and we fill their grit feeders so that they can keep chewing their food.
And we have another question from Olivia. She would like to know how they sleep. Do the turkeys lay down?
They do. They lay down, and especially now as we're getting into fall and winter and colder temperatures, they lay down in big groups. They all sleep together in large groups, and that's how they keep themselves warm at night.
That's interesting. I don't know, I just never pictured a turkey laying down. So that is interesting. Let's do another question from a student across Canada. From Miss Vanderpost, grade 4 class, how many turkeys do you have and how many do you use for meat?
So we raise about 32,000 turkeys a year, and we use them all for meat. So the majority of them are for Christmas and Thanksgiving celebrations. And then the ones that we don't use for that, we'll make sausages out of, or ground turkey, or any kind of turkey product. And then we sell our turkeys to grocery stores and to meat markets and to people that come out to our farm.
Perfect. And I have, here's another question right here. Then I'm going to go to one more after this one, at least, I think. Miranda would like to know how old a turkey can get.
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know how old the turkey could get if you kept it in a barn and just kept it safe. I think it would live a long time. In the wild, where obviously, so there are wild turkeys. You'll find them in southern BC and some in southern Saskatchewan. We don't have any wild turkeys around here, but and then lots down in the US and I'm sure in Ontario and Quebec as well. Wild turkeys have a lot of other issues to deal with, like predators and traffic and access to food and water. But they will generally live, 5 or 6 years or longer. Like I said, our turkeys don't really make it a year, but they could live quite a bit longer, I think, if we kept them.
Awesome. And then we have one more question here from Miss Thorson's grade 3-4 class. Thank you. In some of the other farm tours, the people would change their shoes before they went into a barn. Do you have any biosecurity practices like that on your farm?
Absolutely. So I'm going to show you the outside of our barn here. We've got these yellow bins, and you can see 2 of them there. And inside of those yellow bins, and part of the reason I'm not going into the barns, we have changes of shoes and we have boot covers. And depending on the time of year, we also have coveralls in there that are specific to each barn. So biosecurity, keeping our turkeys healthy from diseases, means that we don't want to take, if let's say these turkeys get sick and they've got a cold, I don't want to give it to these turkeys. So we change our boots and we put coveralls on or boot covers, and that's part of the reason I'm not going in and out of barns right now, is kind of clumsy to carry a phone and also change my boots. But yes, we do have biosecurity, and we also we have biosecurity on our farm, as in if you've been to another farm, then we would ask you to stay off our farm and we would meet you somewhere else. Or even sometimes when people are making deliveries to our farm, we'll meet them out at the road and say, instead of driving into our farm, please wait for us on the road and we'll come and meet you there.
Perfect. And let's do one last question before we wrap up today's tour. Asher asks, are there any interesting facts you could tell us about turkeys that we would be surprised to know? That's a good one. I like.
An interesting fact about turkeys you would be surprised to know. Excuse me. Well, oh boy, that's a great question. Thank you, Asher. So, like I mentioned, they don't have teeth. I think that's kind of interesting. And the eating grits, I think that's kind of interesting. What else do I think is interesting about turkeys? Turkeys love, they're very inquisitive. They love playing with things. And I'm not sure you can see them, but oh, there you can see one. So right here, we have some ropes hanging. And turkeys, they love playing with things. So we hang these ropes from the roof and they play with them. And we put golf balls in and they'll play with those. They just peck at them and chase them around. And also like they love cans. And if you give them a soda can that you squish flat, one turkey will pick it up and run around with it and the rest of them chase it like it's a game of keep away.
That is a fun fact. I could see a couple of them running around in the background there. Those ones must be playing.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, is there any final comments you'd love to share? Inspirations about agriculture? Just final words from you and your turkeys.
Well, I just first off, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I'm so thrilled to be able to join you and to kind of tell you about what we do. And I encourage you, to find out about some of the local producers in your area. And you might say, I learned there's not a lot of turkey being raised around me, but there's, chicken farms or dairies or any one of those. And feel free to reach out to us, if you're in Alberta or near us here outside of Calgary. We love chatting with you and telling people about what we do. And I'm so thrilled that you've all joined us and are taking the time to learn a bit about agriculture.
And thank you so much for joining us today. I learned something, so I hope you all did across Canada as well. And before we close off this episode, and thank you all for waiting very patiently, I'm excited to share the mystery word for today's tour. It is heart. So thank you all again for joining us and for Lyle for being here. I really thought it was super cool and excited to have some turkey at Christmas. Mine won't come from you, unfortunately, Manitoba. But our next stop on the Great Canadian Farm Tour is this Wednesday. Super soon, and it's in Quebec at 1 p.m. November 6th on a robotic dairy farm. So thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you.